Oh, Charizard. Charizard. Charizard has been printed so many times over the last couple of years. It's like Pokemon saw this whole pandemic thing and this rise in popularity of Pokemon, and they were like, let's print this fire-breathing dragon as much as we possibly can. And I get it. Everybody has their favorite Pokemon. For me personally, I love Chandelure. I think Chandelure is amazing. I love Primeape. It is a monkey with boxing gloves. How do you not love Primeape? Arcanine is fantastic. Cresselia is wonderful. Rowlet, that whole line, Rowlet, Decidueye, love it. Love, love, love. And I know a lot of people love Charizard. Now, me personally, I'm not a Charizard hater by any means, but I'm also not like, oh, I need to pull every Charizard all the time. I get the appeal. I understand the appeal. It's like the OG, most amazing, powerful Pokemon with heavy HP. Wonderful, wonderful Pokemon. I get it. But it's just been so overwhelming, and so overwhelming to the fact that Charizard really blew up like crazy. We had a lot of different situations during the pandemic where Pokemon blew up all over the place. There was a lot of sealed product. We saw base booster boxes rise to $28,000 a piece. We saw evolutions boxes selling for $1,000. The opportunity to pull that OG Charizard artwork was just, it was going through a lot of people's minds, so much to the fact that you saw some ridiculous prices being paid for a lot of different Charizards, where they got to a point where I don't know if they will get to for a very, very long time again. And we are going to be looking at Charizard in today's video. And there's a lot of Charizards that are trending downward. And part of that reason is because they were so overinflated. A lot of content creators made a lot of content about Charizard and why you need to get your hands on Charizard and all this excitement when you would pull one. And for the most part, the majority of Charizards are just continuing to trend in the downward direction. But we are going to look at 15 different Charizards that over the past year have actually done okay and really starting to at least trend in the upward direction, or maybe are not going to get back down to that basement price point that we saw a few months ago. So I'm going to flip you guys around so you can see exactly what I am talking about. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think of Charizard. I'm always anxious to see how many people are like, Charizard's number one. I want Charizard all the time. We're going to start out looking at the base Charizard. Now, this is not Shadowless. This is not first edition. Crazy price points on those. However, they don't sell very often, especially on TCG Player, which is where we take a lot of this market information from. So the Charizard base set, the unlimited one, is the one that we kind of look at because there are more common sales. But if we're looking at Charizard right here, you can see for quite a while in 2022, and we're looking at the past year of data, so that way you can have a good understanding of where this price point is at, where it might be headed to. But you can see for the first half of 2022, it actually stayed fairly consistent. At the beginning of January, it was down right around that $340 mark, jumped up to about $360 and stayed between $340 and $360 throughout the entirety of the first half of 2022. But then it sank, and it sank pretty hard. It dropped all the way down to $321.53, so over a 10% drop over the span of just 2 months, which is actually pretty significant when you factor in the value size of this specific card. Now, it stayed around that 320 price point until about November, and then like what we saw from a lot of alternate art started creeping up a little bit. Now, it's not quite at a 1-year high, but it's definitely trending in that upward direction. You see a little bit of peaks and valleys here over the last couple months, but for the most part, much higher than that 1-year low that we were looking at, sitting at about $350 right now at $349.47. So possibly starting to turn around a little bit, and base Charizard got hit really hard by the pandemic. The next one that we're looking at here is the Expedition Holo Charizard. And this is a really, really cool card. I love the artwork. There's some really good, during the end of the Wizards of the Coast era, there's some really good artworks when it comes to Charizard. Really all Pokemon cards. This e-reader era is fantastic, fantastic era. However, it is very overpriced right now, but that's partially due to low population. A lot of these. Look at these steps moving in the upward direction. Now, we're not looking at the reverse holo market. That stayed fairly consistent throughout the entirety of the year, but throughout January, all the way to the end of 2022, you can see upward motion for this card, where it's almost doubled in price. At the beginning of the year, it was right around $236.09. As it ends the year, it's at $487.49. So you've almost doubled in price over the past year. Now, not a whole lot of sales when it comes to this card because it is fairly expensive, but once you start establishing new market prices, those are points where the item is selling, and you are going to be listing. Basically, when you list on TCG Player, your idea is kind of list listing at the lowest near mint price that's currently available. And as those sell, that just means the demand for that object, for that specific card is there. So definitely trending in the upward direction. It may level off a little bit now. I don't see it going a whole lot above that $500 mark, but definitely trending upward when you compare it to where it was at the beginning of 2022, which was right at that $236 mark. The Burning Shadows Charizard definitely trending in the upward direction. You can see at the beginning of 2022, it was at a one-year low of $379.51. Now, the difficult thing with this one, if you can get a mint copy of this one, grade it. Really great. Burning Shadows, terrible quality control, terrible print runs all over the place. I still remember when I pulled 2 Rainbow Rare Charizard GXs in one booster box of Burning Shadows, and both of them came out of the pack in light play condition at best. Lots of centering issues, but more importantly, lots of whitening issues, and that really impacts the grade a lot. When you have nicks and dents and little whitening all over the corners and over the edges, it can get really bad really fast, especially with Burning Shadows. I don't know if they just decided to use like a weed whacker to cut all the sheets or what they decided, but Pokemon, terrible quality control when it came to Burning Shadows. So finding a mint copy of these, definitely get that graded right away, because I do think over the long haul, those are going to be in high demand. But you can see starting out the year at $379.51, jumping up 10% fairly quickly in June, and then staying fairly consistently at that point, trending above $400 right now. You can see a one-year high hit in November of $416.81, backed off a little bit before starting to rise back up a little bit. Now it's sitting at $412.82, much closer to a one-year high than a one-year low. And really, with the amount of time that it's spent close to this one-year high, really since June all the way on to the end of 2022, tells me that I don't know if we're going to get a whole lot closer to that $375 mark moving forward. The Mega Charizard EX, this is from Evolution, starting to trend back up. You can see this bell curve right here where we saw a valley right around July of 2022 where it hit a one-year low of 21.86. It's up about 30% from there, sitting at 28.21 currently, just off of a one-year high, which it actually hit November of 28.70. A lot of people cracking Evolution still. Booster packs very expensive, very difficult to understand why, considering the fact that even a card like this that you pull out, not worth that much more than the cost of a booster pack, and your most expensive card really in Evolutions is only about $50 with that holographic Charizard. Bad print quality in Evolutions as well, but still an overpopulation makes me really curious. I understand the appeal and the lure behind it, because you do want to open up a lot of those old base set artworks without having to pay the high premium of the price of a base set booster pack. But this one definitely trending in the upward direction. As you can see, it started in January close to that one-year high, started going down, and this is a lot of kind of pandemic aftermath where it kind of starts coming back to normalizing markets, things like that. Now we might start seeing some organic growth in some of these Charizard cards. The Mega Charizard EX from Flashfire. This is just the regular one. This is not the secret rare. There are two different ones. Looks like I got my numbers a little bit backwards right now, or I didn't update it at all, but you can see a one-year high for this one of 77.57. That's where it's currently at right now, coming off the heels of a one-year low of 66.29. So not a whole lot of movement. You're looking at about 20% in total for the year, but that all happened within the last couple months. So you can see it trending right around that $74, $75 mark before dropping in November all the way to a one-year low of 66.29, then took off like a rocket in November of 2022, currently jumped up 20%, sitting at 77.57 currently. Then we've got the Charizard V from Darkness Ablaze. This one's actually doing extremely well. Darkness Ablaze, my least favorite of the entirety of the Sword and Shield block. It is just a Charizard set. Outside of that, there's not a whole lot of excitement that you're going to be able to pull, especially with rotation impending. Not a whole lot that you're really looking for out of opening up a Darkness Ablaze pack. But the Charizard V regular art definitely trending in the upward direction. You can see it hit a one-year low in June of $4.32. Now it's over doubled in price over the last 6 months. So if you have quite a few copies of this Charizard V, might be the time to start looking at unloading some of them, so that way you can shore up your collection a little bit more. Sitting at a one-year high right now of $10.07, and doesn't really show any signs of slowing down as it continues to trend upwards. Not a whole lot of Darkness Ablaze packs being opened right now. Like I said before, the reasoning behind it is just because there's not a whole lot that you're excited to pull out of there. The Charizard EX, this is a promo card from the XY era. This one has been doing extremely well. You can see trending upwards pretty much for the entirety of 2022. It started in January with a one-year low of 31.38 before starting its climb. It got all the way up to 53.95 for a one-year high. That was in September before backing off a little bit. It's sitting at 44.71 currently, much closer to a one-year high still than a one-year low, but again, a situation that's gained about 40% over the past year, which is really, really strong for a single. Then we've got the Charizard EX from Evolutions doing fairly well right now, sitting really close to a one-year high at $12.42. You can see kind of another bell curve that you got right here, almost like a horseshoe, where you've got $12.78 as its one-year high. That was basically hit in November, but also in January when we were talking about that aftermath of the pandemic, kind of the hangover of the pandemic, where things were really starting to normalize. Things were starting to correct themselves in the market. In June, you saw a one-year low of $8.88 before it kind of rose a little bit and then kind of backed off a little bit, and now it started its climb. So we'll see over the next several months if this is, like I said, the market correcting and normalizing, or if this is just kind of a blip in a graph that's just going to keep going peaks and valleys all over the place. The Charizard GX from Burning Shadows. This is a regular art one. There was no full art in this set because that was converted to a promo card, a box promo. This one hit $13.41 in August before starting its climb, getting higher than its one-year high, which had originally hit in March, just above $17. It actually hit $17.50 as a one-year high in November, sitting at $17.31 currently, much closer to that one-year high than one-year low of $13.41. If we look next at the Charizard GX, this is I believe this is the Detective Pikachu Charizard GX. So this is from the Sun and Moon block, but this one stayed fairly consistent for the majority of 2022, all the way up until November when it started taking off a little bit. You can see a few blemishes here, a few peaks here and there in June, and then again in August where it tried to rise but kind of backed off a little bit. It hit $17.71 in June, and then in November really started taking off. Lots of singles really started climbing in November of 2022. It's sitting at $23.63 currently, which is just off of its one-year high of $24.38. Then we've got the Metal Charizard. This is from the Celebrations Ultra Premium Collection. Lots of opinions behind this one, but definitely a card that is trending in the upward direction. You can see it hit a one-year low of 94.77. That was right after the third and final print wave of the Ultra Premium Collection came out for Celebrations. So right around February of 2022, just after that third print wave came out, it hit that 94.77 one-year low. It started spiking a little bit, jumped just above $130 in June before coming back down to $110 and then rising back up again in September to that $134.83, that one-year high mark. It's backed off a little bit. $123.76 is where it's currently sitting. It'll be very interesting to see how this one continues to climb, especially because of the fact that it's not really gradable right now because of the peeling issues and the chipping issues on the paint and the production quality that you have on the back of the card. If that does get fixed and CGC or BGS or PSA really start grading these cards again, I wouldn't be surprised to see this card spike even more or quite a bit more. If we look at the Mega Charizard EX from Flashfire, this is the secret rare that we didn't look at before. At one point in time, this was down to $169.82. That was in August of 2022. That was a one-year low. You can see, again, another horseshoe graph starting to take off in November. Again, lots of singles really starting to improve in November of 2022. You can see it jumping up a little bit, and now it's sitting at $229.96, which is a one-year high for this card. It hasn't been there for quite some time. The Reshiram and Charizard GX is from Unbroken Bonds, another little bit of a horseshoe here as we see the market correcting and kind of normalizing a little bit. In July, it hit $8.98. It's gained about 40% since then, really starting to take off again, sitting at $13.88 currently, but it did hit a one-year high in November of 2022 when it got to $14.38. We're almost done with this. This is another XY promo, the Charizard EX. This came in a jumbo. I think it was a collection box that also had a jumbo in it. This one hit $15.58 in March before starting to climb back up, getting close to that one-year high, and then backing off a little bit. You're only looking at about 20% growth here, but again, more of that horseshoe graph model there. It jumped back up very close to that one-year high of $18.39, and it's currently sitting at $18.12. Then we've got the Charizard and Braixen GX. This is a Sun and Moon box promo. I absolutely love the artwork on this card. I think it's really, really cool. You can see kind of an upward trajectory pretty much for the entirety of 2022. It did hit a one-year high in March when it hit 1985 before backing off a little bit. It fell back down to about that that $15 range, which was still well above its 1-year low of $11.57, but really consistent growth since then, sitting at $18.46 currently. That's the last Charizard that we're going to look at. I looked through pretty much every page of Charizard to try and find graphs that really showcase some sort of upward trajectory, and for the most part, these are the only ones that I was confident, like, okay, well, maybe these are starting to trend in the upward direction. Maybe Charizard is actually starting to correct itself a little bit in the market after kind of being destroyed not only by the Pokemon company, but also by content creators, by influencers really pumping up every Charizard that's basically ever been printed as like this wonderful fail-proof investment, but Charizard starting, these are the ones that really started to kind of show a little bit of a pattern of at least somewhat organic growth. So it'll be really interesting to see how the rest of the Charizards pan out. It's definitely something that I think all of us should keep an eye on over the next year, especially some of them that we might see kind of a turnaround, where they might start hitting that basement where you might be like, okay, well, now's the time to kind of pick up these Charizards. You can let me know in the comments section down below what Charizards you're looking at, which ones you really want to add to your collection, or maybe you just don't like Charizard and you want to focus on Blastoise, Venusaur, or other cards. Either way, you can feel free to leave me a comment down below. Leave a like. It goes a long way for the algorithm. If you enjoy the content, hit that subscribe button. If not, don't worry about it. No problem. I understand completely, guys. We will be back tomorrow with another video about building a business in 2023. I'm excited for that one. So I will see you then. Until then, peace.